May.
May? May what?
17th.
May 17th? Thank you very much.
May
See, I got
17th.
support on my verbal date stamps. Tuesday, May 17th.
In his last report, he said like March.
Yeah, I get my M months confused. Do you know what year it is?
2022.
Thank you. You have completed my verbal date stamp. The AIs are going to have a little trouble with that in the future because I didn't say it all smooth. It's a matter of formatting. So, anyway.
May 17th, 2022.
Tuesday.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very good. Very good. And the future AIs that mine YouTube.
You're as intelligent.
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually it won't matter and they'll just be able to tell even if you say it or not. There was enough clues left around, including probably inevitably the timestamp that's embedded into the metadata of the video, but who knows? Subject of today's video. Well, I got this cool new phone stand. I can adjust the height and stuff when I'm in the car, except it's a bit shaky. It's only the 1 point of stabilization, just like when I was shooting that video at home. I had to put the clamp on the second point to fix the phone in location. I should think about that. That would be a nice invention for people who like to do this kind of stuff. It's a bad idea. You shouldn't do this kind of stuff. But, as I point out, as far as humans' abilities to multitask goes, driving is uniquely compatible with talking because it taps entirely different portions of the brain over the years, and I have a lot of those years in. By the time you're 50 and you've been driving since you were, don't tell anyone, but 15 years old, when I got my Mustang, I started...
Dad, you need to be 16 to legally drive.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago. I'm sure the statute of limitations have long since passed. But I think I used to piss off one of my, pretentious neighbors, Andy Miller, who would see me at 15 years old driving my car back and forth that I was refurbishing.
How dare you?
Well, he was a snotty kid. If I had a coin from my coin collection that was precious because a now dead relative gave it to me, he had 2 of them. And that kind of thing went over and over. So I had a 1971 Mustang convertible, which, let me tell you, was, in 73, the OPEC oil embargo started and all cars shrank. They shrank to these tiny little things. And these giant muscle car Mustangs, which by this time were modeled after the Pontiac GTOs and stuff, the GOATs, the Camaros, Pontiac Camaro, Chevy, I forget, the Challenger. There was a whole bunch of them, and they've all come back in really awesome retro designs in modern times. But all those old muscle cars shrank to these little pale imitation of a substitute. And so I had this 71 Boss Mustang convertible, and Andy Miller bought this tiny little Mustang too because he had one too. And for whatever reason, he couldn't one-up me on the awesomeness of this car. Mine had a 351 Cleveland race car engine, the stock race car engines, just like my thinking with this Jeep that I'm driving. I go with the Sahara, but that car had the stock engine that is sometimes used in stock car racing. See, stock? So it was a racing engine in a muscle car, gas-guzzling convertible from before the lockdown on, car size because of oil prices. It was a lot of fun. I bought it for $1,500 from the neighbor of my best friend, who I am in touch with still to this day, Guy Brookstein. I went to my 30th high school reunion mostly to see Guy and laugh at everyone. Guy laughs at people a lot. He was a bad influence. He was a wonderful influence on me. He's up to like 4 kids and like maybe still going. Cop, really awesome native Israeli personality, Is that person like loud and abrasive and mean? No, they're just Israeli. And he was physically very large, and I would fight him. I would, roughhouse with him, like life or death roughhousing. So,
excuse me, what?
Yeah, it felt like life or death roughhousing.
Was it actually?
It felt that way. You know the move that I use on you called the scissors?
Yeah.
That was the only move I could use against Guy Brookstein in roughhousing and actually have a chance of something called winning. So of course, whenever we roughhouse, and this was like tumbling down grassy hills near our houses and stuff.
I should bet.
Yeah, really going. It's a little bit gay for God.
How do you know?
But so it was always an exercise of, you know, him manhandling me like the large person the way that he can, and me struggling to do the scissors. And if I got the scissors, he would call uncle and it would be over and I would win.
Wait, what does your uncle have to do with it?
My uncle has to do with a lot of things. 2 of them, but that's for another video.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've thought back in later years how me not taking fight or flight situations, fight, flight, or freeze situations that I see causes anxiety in people very seriously myself because of roughhousing with Guy Brookstein. And if it wasn't on the physical level with actual fighting that made you feel like your life was in danger, and it wasn't, so you had to come to grips with the fact you're not actually dying. It's a very useful skill for your...
Technically, we're all slowly dying.
We're all slowly dying.
We're not escape
No.
the inevitable cold embrace of death.
Yeah, but you put it in such a light there, kid.
Yeah.
You know, it's a long way off, and we're given 10 times 10 rotations around the sun, and that's a good amount. You can keep track of them on your finger, and you're only up to your 2nd finger, and only at the beginning of it, too. Yeah, so if it wasn't on the physical level, you know, understanding your life wasn't really in danger, then it was on the intellectual level with Dungeons and Dragons, which I played with Guy Brookstein and, you know, a bunch of different groups of people there too, where there was a lot of death and you had to come to grips with that fact. And did you just go around killing things, and was it real death? And to this day, those lessons are with me. My kid schooled me in Dungeons and Dragons, which we were playing yesterday, and the adventure that they encouraged me to choose.
Like about arsonist fairies.
Arsonist fairies. So of course the first thing
Magical frogs.
that had magical frogs, that's right. First thing I did is equip myself, you know, at the magic shop.
Yeah, with like fireproof stuff.
Fireproof stuff.
Which was reasonable.
Yeah.
I encouraged them to get fireproof stuff.
But also I went seeking the nets and the jars. Because, you know, fire fairies sound pretty cool, right? You could like rig up some sort of cool flamethrower if you had some good fire.
Already had a magic user that knew fire spells.
Yeah, so I was doing it for the cool of it, and I lacked empathy for these fairies. It was completely clear in hindsight, so I already gave it away, but the adventure started, and you know, Addie Alex was dungeon mastering me and my characters, including Ermulok, the halfling with an 8 charisma, who makes up for it with his ferret, Garrett the Ferret, who has an 18 charisma. So I have an 18 wisdom. Ermulok has an 18 wisdom and an 8 charisma.
Your ferret is better than you.
But I can write really good poetry. You know, with an 18 wisdom, you can have that deep, soulful stuff.
Yeah, but everybody hates you.
So I take my cloak and I wrap it around me, and I let Garrett the Ferret stick its head out through the opening. And
basically does the 2 kids in a trench coat thing.
Yeah, the 2 kids in a trench coat gag. And that's what we do in Dungeons and Dragons, so that I don't immediately turn people against me. And we can, like, you know, build a party and everything. So me and Alex, the magic user who could do fire, they had the fireball spell, and a little bit of mind reading, and a rich family, came from a rich family but chose the adventuring life. We connected with Alex and Leslie, a green, 2-tongued fighter whose earliest memory is when they were about 15 years old, and they just woke up, and they must have been around 15, because what do they know? And they didn't have their early memories, and can speak in tongues and languages using sounds that other creatures can't.
Like humans aren't physically able to
make, because of the two tongues and stuff. So, and the most important part, my original companion, Toxie, the landfill dump monster, who has a heart of gold, whose very body is acidic and corrosive to things, who can shapeshift to some extensive degree, to the point where they can form a bubble around us and could basically throw off every game. You know, it's our lightning bruiser, right? So games can't be too off balance. That's why you got to roll your stats. You can't give everyone an 18, because if everyone was a lightning bruiser, that means fast and can hit with a punch. You try and balance it. If they're fast, they're small. If they're powerful and big, then they're slow. So things balance out, but not with Toxie. Toxie's the whole package. So she, as a self-limiting function, has a heart of gold and won't kill anything. So you got a body that can dissolve things and shield you from things, and they won't kill a fly. Right? So is this an awesome adventuring fellowship or personship or what? Right? So this was mostly of Addie Alex's imagining, and I am completely going along with it in awe of why I don't have memories of my own adventures, even being a tenth as creative as this. So after the magic shop, we go out into the woods, and we find a flaming frog statue. It wasn't flaming at first, but it starts to flame. So
You were told to look for a frog statue in the woods to find the fairy.
Yeah. And so it starts ticking, and it starts flaming. And so we, jump into our bag of holding.
No, the fairies start coming at you after.
The fairies started coming at us first.
Try and capture some of them.
Yeah, we got one in a
frog
jar.
Starts ticking.
Yeah. We got one in a jar, but Toxie let it out of the jar without ruining the jar top, I might say. I was worried that she was going to punch an air hole with her corrosive finger in the top. Was going to ruin the jar, but she managed.
You sure do underestimate Toxie.
I do. I'm sorry, Toxie. I will try not to underestimate you. But what she really just did is took the jar and let the fairy free. And that's when the frog started ticking. And clearly it was like time bomb-like ticking. So we all panicked and we ran into our bag of holding. We got a high-end bag of holding because Alex had the money to spring for the kind that has like a whole warehouse room inside of it. And so we climbed inside, leaving it to Toxie, because Toxie herself is naturally fireproof. So she was protecting the bag of holding, and we were in the bag and protecting ourselves. And then after the time bomb, the ticking stopped and went off.
It just like made like a ribbon sound.
Yeah.
And then you start to climb out, and then it explodes.
And as I stuck my hand out to climb out is when it exploded, right when we thought. And it serves me right, too. I was schooled. I was being taught a lesson. And even just today, after a night's sleep on it, I'm internalizing it. Even if they're fairies, don't try and catch them in a jar, because it's cool. You hear that, Goofy? No, it's not Goofy. Goofy was the fairy. It was that cruel little kid. Oh, if you haven't seen it, I think it's the original Fantasia, but this is channeling some deep stuff that impressed me then too. It's apparently this lesson I do have to learn over and over. So I think it was Fantasia, there was a kid who, I forget the name of it, but collected butterflies. And Goofy was a winged fairy, and the kid had tried to collect him. And I do believe was unsuccessful, and lessons were learned, and I learned my lesson too. Addie, thank you very much. You and Toxie and the whole crew. So
kidnapping is bad no matter who it is.
So I quickly turned around and amended my ways.
And the fairies were all like, fuck you, bitch.
All right. Yeah. Warranted. Merited. But I'm a dynamic...
We were far enough in so we won't get.
Yeah, I am a dynamic personality, and I am not beyond growth. And humility. Humility and growth. Two excellent attributes in a person. Sometimes I look into whether I'm a narcissist or not. I certainly project it. There's no doubt someone who's as easily social and storytelling and gregarious, what have you, into themselves. It's okay to be into yourself. What are you aside from your own art project? Honestly. And it should be, that should be regulated. So how does one regulate treating yourself as your own art project? It's the perfected golden rule. So often you'll hear of the golden rule: do unto others before they do unto you. He who has the gold makes the rules. These are all BS, right? But there's an even worse one, which goes, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So this golden rule encourages you to proactively do unto others as you would have them do unto you, to take your moral code, what you believe about life, and to take this and to proactively do it unto others. That sounds like the Inquisition to me. That sounds like colonization to me. It is not a very nice golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So, if you encounter heathens and barbarians, and you can justify treating them as subhuman, because if you were a heathen or a barbarian, that's how, you say you would have them treat you, but honestly, it's deep hypocrisy. You would somehow say to yourself, but I would never be born into the random situation where I was what a Christian would call a heathen or barbarian during the Crusades. It's circumstances of life. Of course you could be born into that queequeg, right? But you could still be noble, queequeg. The Noble Savage Friday, the 13th, is a very fine day indeed. Examples abound in some of the early writers, even the English ones, who were all stuck on that, medieval, dark age thought process. Even they were illuminated enough to become sympathetic, to have sympathetic barbarians, the gentle savage, right? And Native Americans are often called that as well. But even that is a little bit, demeaning and condescending, as if savagery is automatically the result of not being part of the, Roman, Greek, Western Europe lineage. It's just not that way at all. Different strokes for different folks. The world's a big place. No matter the circumstances you're born into, there's a point at which you can take control of yourself, bootstrap yourself, become the person you want to be. So, do unto others as you would have them do unto you is not a good golden rule. It needs to be fixed, improved. And it goes something like this: do not do unto others as you would not have them do unto you. Don't do unto others. Your default status, your default state, your natural position that you always come back to, your center, is not doing unto others. It's live and let live. Live and let live, and let others live and let live in the way they see fit, so long as they are not imposing their way of living onto you. There is yet another take on this in Heaven's Gate, the fourth of the Bobiverse books I have recently listened to, and I considered elaborating on that, because they had the steel rule, the silver rule, and the gold rule, which was somewhat along the same lines. But my version comes from, I believe, a Talmud, which is kind of like, rabbi fan fiction on the 5 books of Moses, which are, rabbi fan fiction. So there's only 5 books in the whole Jewish tradition, which are the ones that are believed to be divinely inspired, given directly. No, not divinely. Others are divinely inspired. Prophets are divinely inspired. But only 5 of the books which are the word of God to Moses. And they are thusly called the 5 books of Moses. And they're the ones carried in the Ark of the Covenant when the Jews need to pack it up quickly to go. And I owe a lot of this to my ex, who studied a lot of Jewish history at one of the New York colleges. And I owe her a debt for getting me more in touch with my Jewish roots. So when the temples are burned and destroyed, which they are on occasion, and the Jews have to pack it up to go, and when you pack it up to go, you really can't carry that much with you. That's why in Dungeons and Dragons, one of your first necessary acquisitions is a bag of holding, or I think a tensor's plate will do. There's some different things, but you need to carry it to go, and the more you can do to carry it to go effectively, efficiently, the more thought you put into what you're really going to need, the better off you're going to be in the long term. So when the Jews did this more than once, it was determined to be the 5 books of Moses that were most important. Sometimes they brought other things along, and that's where new discovered transcripts come into the picture. The Dead Sea Scrolls had some of those, things never before seen. But the kernel, if you will, the boot kernel of Judaism is just what they could pack into that ark and skedaddle with. So those tend to have the most important lessons. If you can't bring anything else with you, here's what you take: Linux, Python, Vim, and Git. And that lesson has really stuck with me. It has resonated. And so beyond these 5 books is a lot more that the rabbis want to say interpreting on it. And they write it in the margins, essentially. You can't write on the Torah, so, copies of the Torah that are made for this purpose, apparently, the rabbis can have, ye olde Usenet forums. Oh wait, Usenet forums are already ye olde. I guess is it Google groups? No, no one uses Google groups. Subreddits. Will the modern audience understand ye olde subreddits? Okay, I think they will.
I understand subreddits, right?
Is that good or bad?
Little of both.
Little of both, I'll take that.
Oh, remember when you showed me?
No! Shush! No incrimination. I am all in favor of broadening the mind, but I am not in favor
No, I mean like r/cats being jerks.
Yeah, cats being jerks is absolutely, I remember showing you that.
Yeah. Where it's a bunch of cats being jerks. Cats
being jerks. And, there's some...
that time the cat murdered the child?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the murder cat. There, I'll accept, and I'll say it myself. It's not you saying it. I will accept, sorry, John.
No, it's I'm sorry.
See, I don't even know it. I don't go to these things enough to know it. I'm just in tune enough with the subreddit culture.
In tune enough to know
about sorry, John. I'm sorry, John. And existential crises of the youth culture. I even have it in that little thing that you scroll in Google Keep, to highlight the existential crisis of our youth today. Because, everyone knows from so many sources that if it's not us destroying ourselves with atomics and gray goo, then it's solar flares. If it's not solar flares, it's an asteroid. If it's not an asteroid, it's gamma ray bursts. If it's not gamma ray bursts, it's the eventual heat death of the universe, right? Maybe kids are taught this a little bit too soon, but everyone can pick a time frame that makes it look bleak. But you only got 10 times 10 rotations around the sun. Don't worry about the gamma ray burst. If that happens, you won't even know it. worry about the things you can have some effect on today. Tikkun Olam, heal the world. Again, thanks to my ex for connecting me to my Judaism a bit. But the 3D printers accidentally making gray goo that encompasses the earth, you can do something about it.
Wait, what?
Oh, you don't know that one? Sorry.
We have a 3D printer, Dad. What are you?
No, it's not today's 3D printers. Trust me, it's tomorrow's, and they're not going to be.
What are you not telling me, Dad?
I'm telling you that when you can build anything, you can build things that can have cascading bad effects.
Yeah, no shit.
It's the same basic principle as atomic bombs. It's cascading effects, chain reaction they call it. Chain reactions is one of the things about the world one needs to know. Things are kept in stable orbits for a good long time, but no stable orbit is 100% stable. Either the force of decay or random chaos or chain reaction forces can knock things out of alignment and balance, and orbits go out of whack and the stability is lost. However, again, any nihilist, any pessimist, any excessively nattering nabob can draw a picture that looks bleak. Filter that out. There's only carbon in the air because energy is expensive, because it takes less energy to release carbon into the air than it takes to capture carbon back into highly ordered structures. Creating order to turn that carbon into the air, into carbon nanotubes to make, elevators to the moon, or to make graphene sheets to have free energy distributed around the world from the solar panels, which are also made from graphene, is just a matter of free energy, which is on its way to us from this graphene in a meta self-referential process, but also from fusion, clean nuclear energy. There's a whole lot of sources by which free energy is absolutely going to be free in our lifetimes if we let it happen. And if energy is free in our lifetimes, we can get carbon out of the air, and we can undo the L-lure tipping point. Tipping points are about as real as the domino effect, and you can see how much communism has really taken over the world, right? Communism and the domino effect is not real, and the tipping point of carbon emissions is not real either. The biggest threat environmentally is regression into ice ages, so maybe we could use a little global warming to stave off the next ice age. You don't know. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm not saying we don't have an environmental crisis. I believe in science. I absolutely believe we do have that crisis. But I think it's the rich people's waterfront property that's going to go first. And I think, I'll be perfectly happy in Otisville. Otisville?
Otisville?
Yeah, you need to learn about Otisville, Patty. It's a shortcoming on my part that you don't know that reference, okay? That'll be one of our movie nights.
So it's a movie?
It's a reference to what one of Lex Luthor's henchmen put on the map as a joke when Lex Luthor was in the Superman movie, the Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, the good one people talk about all the time. So when Lex Luthor showed the map of what the west coast of the United States would look like after he shoots a nuclear bomb into the San Andreas Fault and all of California slides into the ocean, one of the waterfront cities that was kind of penciled in was called Otisville. And Otis was Lex Luthor's henchman. Classic scene.
Otis has his own calendar?
Well, Lex Luthor sees that penciled in and, shrivels his nose up and goes, Otisville? Because he didn't draw that there. He didn't write that there. Explaining a joke makes it not funny.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's deep channeling there.
Want to hear a joke?
Yes.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
You already forgot me?
Aha! Never. Ever. Ever is my answer.
I literally knew I was doing a knock-knock joke and you said, oh, who's there?
Interrupting Cal.
Dad, I've heard that one a million times. Moo!
All right. some point I'll show you my gum wrapper that contains the wisdom of the universe.
Otisville.
Precisely. Sorry.
Felicia!
Yeah, all is good. All
No,
is
I
good.
can't reach my phone now. I got it!
Excellent, excellent. Well done. We're about to reach the flaming chemical towers of New Jersey. Ah, close to home. I can smell New York.
Stop sniffing New Jersey.
Yeah, it's not only New Jersey, I need to tell you. New York smells too.
Everywhere smells, Dad.
Yeah, no, you're right. Everywhere smells, and you can learn about the smells by being observant. Listen to Bob's Burger. What was it, Tammy, who visited New York? She knows.
Tammy's that bitch, right?
Yeah.
One who's kind of rivaling with Tina.
Yeah.
Remember that episode where Tammy became friends with Louise?
Yes. Yeah, Bob Burgers, much more, a lot of channeling. I guess I'll wrap this up because I'm almost there. But, you know, a lot of the stuff that becomes timeless, that enters the realm of timeless, like The Simpsons. Who thought that such a wonderful, you know, timeless animated thing could become so fundamental? And it happened again, Bob's Burgers. I did not realize it. It was Nina, one of Addie's friends from Inwood, the mother of one of Addie's friends from Inwood, that really clued me onto it. She said to me, "Look, you really ought to watch Bob's Burgers. It's better than maybe you think." And it was a lot better than I thought. And Addie and I will be going off to see the Bob's Burger movie in not too long. And yeah, I'll be putting that ahead of Everywhere All the Time, even though Doofenshmirtz says it's a lot like The Matrix and these other movies that I just deeply love. But that'll come to streaming. My kid is saying Bob's Burgers next, and I am all about that. I wish it could have been this weekend, but it didn't work out as such. It was our big river ride. It was a wonderful river ride. And
River rides are harder to find than movies.
yeah, we can do movies anytime. But once I leave this place in the Poconos, it's going to be harder to get back on the Delaware. I'm going to have to make the decision of whether to keep the canoe and the 2 kayaks. I'll have to pay to keep them in storage, or whether I'll get rid of them, sell them. Life is not long enough to arrange selling it. My time is not worth selling a canoe that, you know, I spent X amount for, and, you know, I hate the fact that the good things in life that you want to own take more time to sell than they are worth your time. That's a little heart-wrenching. I'm not an eBayer and never will be. Or I can't say I never will be because I've got an open mind. Maybe that'll be my retirement game. You're right. Never say never. But do know your priorities. And do know what's important. And know when there's limited time windows. And know when certain phases of a life are so important that you will do everything within your power to make sure it all goes down with certain attributes. Now, don't be inflexible. Don't try and be a control freak and say it has to happen this way. You have to be at this place at this time, or else all hell's gonna break loose, and you have to. It's gonna be. You know, you get the idea. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Nobody likes that. That level of unreasonability is the narcissism that I keep checking to make sure whether I am or not. And it turns out that when you're an open mind and you're flexible and you're aware of your own flaws, you might be a lot less narcissistic than people try and paint the picture of. And then, of course, I believe in projection. Anything anyone accuses anyone of, especially the narcissist, the online anti-narcissist community calling everyone flying monkeys. Oh, the poor flying monkeys. The much maligned flying monkeys. You should really read The Wizard of Oz, at least the first book in the 14-book series. And you should read all 14 books, too. Life's deepest channeling is in The Wizard of Oz, much more so than Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay? So it's a case where the Americans got it right over the Brits. The Brits usually get it like 80% of the way there, and the Americans come in with our Yankee ingenuity, and it might take, 13, 12. It might take 12 more books than it took the Brits to get it to 80% of the way there. But with a mere 12 additional books, we push it to the 95.5%. And the Wizard of Oz series is uniquely American in nature, where Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and the follow-up book, Through the Looking Glass, are uniquely British in nature and perspective. Alice is not that dynamic of a personality. The events may or may not have actually occurred. It was more likely a dream. And she doesn't come off more the better for it. No one was really what you would call a friend, and you're on your own in this world. Dorothy brings Uncle Henry and Aunt Em to Oz, and it was absolutely real. And they deal with the difficulties of technology and airplanes flying over Oz, somewhere in the middle of the United States. And the issues of man-made or human-made intelligence of TikTok. I'm not talking about the Tin Woodman. If you don't know TikTok, you don't know Oz.
You don't know TikTok yet?
Yeah.
The app?
No, not the app TikTok. TikTok, the mechanical man, Addie. Again, it's such a shortcoming. It's a shortcut. It's a failure on my part.
That's fine.
Well, you don't know Otisville, and you don't know the real TikTok. How can that be? I blame myself. Now, I don't mean to control you. In your mind, stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. Mine's innocent and tranquil. Take those for a hermitage. What's in your mind, Addie, belongs to you. I have no business forcing my way in there. But I do need to get you to, allow me to read you The Call of the Wild. Oh, that's three things. Three short... Okay, so you get the idea. Parents don't have to do a lot, but you do have to put your kids in a little bit of danger here and there for the lesson. Don't stop your kids from skateboarding. Don't interfere with your kids skateboarding. Let them scrape at their knees and stuff. And do get across a few stories, the great stories of our time. Some of them are from the Bible. Gilgamesh, pre-Bible, the stuff the Bible is based on. Make sure you have a broad perspective of where things came from and why. And when your particular tribe has so many things so right, and packages it to go in something you call the Bible, check it out. There's some good lessons and stories in there. It's a lot of thought went into it, not just by one person, but many people over a significant period of time, and for very good reason, which has resulted in a small percentage of the people being so powerful in this world for so many thousands of years. So, take note, but it doesn't begin and end there. Of course, I said Gilgamesh and the Odyssey and Odysseus, and the Sinbad, Middle East stuff that's loosely based on the Odyssey. Take it in from different cultures. The Thousand Tales of Scheherazade. There's good stuff out there, and Aesop's Fables, the Brothers Grimm. Work your way through it. There is no skill more valuable in the modern age than storytelling. Why? Because storytelling is how culture gets transmitted. It's how you do those things that you would kick yourself as a parent for not doing. Most of the things that you need to do as a parent are coded into certain stories. So as a parent, the main thing you need to do is figure out the lessons of which stories must be conveyed over time. And, you know, the story of Otisville and what else? Story of Otisville and Call of the Wild. And I think I had a third in there that I really considered important getting across, are among three of them. And yeah, sorry, it's not always multitasking. Some parts of driving take slowing down and paying attention, so that's when I fade out. And that's okay too. These are all okay things. And we have just passed from New Jersey into New York. No, we haven't. We're about to go over the Goethals Bridge. We're still in Jersey. And I'll wrap this up as we're passing over the Goethals Bridge, because my stop will not be long after that. But I'll let the kooky architecture, is that what you call it with the bridge, show in the windows out the side here. It's worth seeing the Goethals Bridge. It's a new suspension bridge technique that they also used on the Tappan Zee Bridge, because if you Tappan Zee Bridge one more time, that old one was going to collapse. So they replaced it with this clever new suspension architecture, which I'm looking at now, and you'll see as we pass through it. But many things are full of channeling. Many things have stories. The channeling of many stories are the necessary stuff of life in order to code up your brain to do what parents can't always do. Because if this stuff is coming from the parents, then it's no good, right? Rejection of parental lessons compensated for by cool stories, of which Bob's Burgers loaded with plenty, and I am a big fan. And Louise's Burgers of the Day are absolutely brilliant. And what's wrong with a little bit of naughty mouth? And the subreddit, you know, that's really effed up, because, you know, it's a terrible name on a wonderful, wonderful subreddit that everyone should look at that stuff and understand the extremes of life, perchance to, you know, put things in perspective and be grateful and understand how fortunate they are in the random circumstances that put them in their lot. And yeah, discussions like this to understand that you are a meta being. The only thing different between you and an orangutan, chimp, or bonobo is precisely how meta you are. To be or not to be, or to not. It's I think therefore I am. The other one is the existential bit. We'll get to that later. But I think therefore I am. The only difference between you and a chimp and a bonobo is how much you think therefore you are. It's only a matter of degree. Subtlety and nuance matters. The ability to transmit information, knowledge, to encode and decode tricks over the generation with increasingly awesome tricks is a process of how meta of a being, how self-referential your thoughts are. We are extremely self-referential and can build upon build thoughts and ideas, build information upon information. Chimps, bonobos, and orangutans can also do that, just not as much as us, not with the same righteous feedback loop as we do. And so now I'm firmly into Staten Island and New York City, and I'll even be at my exit pretty soon. So that's where I'll wrap up. Do you have any parting shots, kiddo?
Huh?
That's a good one.
No, I was kind of zoned out with it.
Yeah, if you want to say goodbye, this is the last chance before
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.